very warm welcome to this very interesting and engaging discussion where I have with me all the power women of the Indian digital ecosystem. I have with me Malika Sudani from the Moms Company. I have Shubhra Chadda from Chumbak Design. I have Gitanjali Rajamani from Farmers Naya Sagi from Baby Chakra, and Shoshi Mukherjee from LimeRoad. Thank you very much, ladies, for joining us today for this very insightful and hopefully engaging conversation for our audiences. Now, the topic of discussion that we have today is the role of remote working in bridging gender equality in workplaces. But, before I begin asking you all any questions, let me just set the context. I was looking at some data from the World Bank, and it really reveals that the participation of women in the labor workforce in India has gone down from 30% to about 20% in 2019. Now, this 30% was back in 1990, and that's come down to 20% in 2019. But of course, trends are showing that this number has slightly gone up, considering that there is work from home that has really taken place. And I'm going to come to each of you to understand how work from home has shaped gender equality and diversity in your workplaces. But of course, I want to also, bring in another number where I actually read that there is about a potential of 11 million women who can be included in the entire labor workforce, considering that work from home has become the new normal. I want to begin with you, Malika, by asking you about this entire scenario. Do you think that this trend has been an upward trend, considering that more women are working from home?
Thank you. I think, Priya, what we've realized is that, in the last 1 year, we've all realized that it's more important to kind of give weightage to output over the number of hours that you're putting into work, right? And that has kind of given women the flexibility to kind of have output-oriented show of work, right? Like what used to happen originally was that women were always constrained by saying, I have to get to work by this time, and I have to leave by this time because I either had to pick up my child from school or I had to go back to do some household errands. What's changed over the last 1 year that we've all learned to be agile. We've all had different work timings, and we have easily formed a way in which, when I finish my work and I finish the task that's been allotted to me, it goes to someone else. And what is the dependence of the other person in the team on me, and how do we make this whole chain work, right? It's been very clearly defined over the last 1 year. And that's given flexibility to women for working from home without any questions being asked. It's given them the flexibility to work around the clock at their own timings. We, in fact, in our organization, gave them the flexibility to kind of, move their schedule slightly around, but making sure that the output and the task that's been allotted to you is delivered. So I think this just way of approach was something that we were not comfortable with before, but the last 1 year has taught us how to be comfortable with this. And that's kind of given women the flexibility to show work from home.
And now, if I may bring you in at this point in time, I wanted to ask you, do you think flexible working hours is perhaps the single biggest factor that is driving this trend at this point in time?
So yes and no, Priya. I absolutely agree with Malika's assessment of the scenario, which is, I think workplaces have definitely moved to looking at outcomes. I'll give you an example, right? At Baby Chakra, now we have more and more men and women who are sort of care providers for children or for elderly at home, basically, calendaring in a very structured way, in a very accepted way, paid time off, right? So PTO. So we all know sort of when the team is available, when it's not. It's a very structured sort of scenario we find ourselves in, where people are respecting each other's sort of personal commitments more. But I think the flip side to it is that the entire sort of overall sort of physical infrastructure does not exist today, right? So, schools are not operating, daycares are not operating, you're not getting help at home. Previously, we used to have joint families. Today, we live more and more nuclear families. In case you have families who are able to help you, extended family members who were able to help you, now because of the lockdown, because of infection rates, etc., they're all where they were originally, not with the parents today, right? So we're also finding a lot of stress in families that work at Baby Chakra, and even sort of families that use Baby Chakra regularly, where they talk about the physical infrastructure not existing, and hence I think the onus is even higher on us as employers and as workplaces to ensure that we respect that, understand that, and at our end create more and more flexibility into the way people operate today to reduce stress in their systems.
Shubhra, what is the kind of gender ratio that you have at Chumbak at this point in time? And are you seeing this trend of more women returning back to work after the whole work from home has been implemented?
So At Chumbak, I mean, we are a women-centric brand, and I feel like for us especially, it's very important that the people behind the brand are also in a large, respect women because I mean, they get it. So we have over 50% women at Chumbak. And speaking from a Chumbak perspective, last year we haven't really had too many hires, etc. So I can't say that it has changed for Chumbak. But from a broader perspective, I definitely feel like the work from home helps women, especially middle management, where they are at that point in their lives where either they're getting married or they're moving, their husbands' careers are getting them to move to different places, or it happens that they are moving in with marrying someone who is in a city, let's say a tier 2 or tier 3 city, where there aren't that many job opportunities available. And of course, if they're new mothers. So in that sense, work from home definitely opens up a lot more opportunities to those women.
This brings me to a very interesting survey that I read of recently, where basically it said that 48% of the women exit their workplaces in substantial numbers when they're at their mid-career stage. And that's perhaps the reason why a lot of women don't reach leadership roles in several organizations. And I want to bring both Suchi as well as Gitanjali here at this point in time to understand, what perhaps could be the reasons. Do you think that work from home could perhaps increase and improve these kind of numbers where more women will reach senior management or management roles in organizations?
When we think about labor force, it's probably wise to think about it in two parts. One is blue collared and then one is essentially white collared. I think on the blue collared side, there is a very, very clear trend of this whole thing about urban migration from urban cities into rural India, and that's been documented. In the white collar space, though, I think at Lime Road, we've seen two trends, and the first trend is a very similar migration away from the metros into tier 2 towns, particularly. So a lot of engineers, a lot of people in data, a lot of people in product management, they actually just went home. And when they went home, and particularly if I think about the age cohort, right? And again, we have to split this. So if we look at startup economies, the age cohort is roughly that single male or single woman cohort, right? Which is sub 30. That cohort went into tier 2 towns. They went back to parents at Bhopal or Ranchi or Jaipur and all of that. And what they found that their quality of life instantly improved. They no longer had to do chores. They, had a parent. They had parents. They had a setup. There was no need for paying rent, and they were able to work. So that migration has actually really helped that singles cohort. Now let's talk about the cohort which you're referring to, Priya, which is where the maximum drop-off happens when it comes to women, which is this child-rearing age cohort, right? You're getting pregnant, or you have a first child, or you're about to have a second child, or your children are still in junior school, maybe even mid-school. And I think that piece, in my mind, and I haven't seen recorded data on this, but I think that piece got harder. I think your job became infinitely harder because the rural migration, the migration away on domestic health really hit you. Schools or creches, which were really taking off some of that load, they no longer took off that load. If you were in homes where you had elderly people, you all of a sudden had everything come together and you didn't have enough space. Most homes, and if you think about most of these families and you then classify that between sort of the A1 SEC and the A2, A3, and then the Bs, if you were anywhere in that middle income family as a woman, you were as it is living in a 2-bedroom apartment. Now you have potentially 2 brats running around, wanting your attention. You're probably not having a space of your own. I think it got harder for women.
I want to go to Gitanjali and ask her whether she feels that this piece got harder too.
Yeah, Priya. So I'll have to sort of agree with Suchi on this, that yes, it has got harder, but it also has got easy on certain things. Like they say, there are blessings to count in the burdens we bear, right? So there are some blessings in this whole thing as well. So like you spoke about why we see women drop out during the mid management phase, right? So if you look at why women drop off work, it's mainly because of marriage, motherhood, biases such as no night shifts, no traveling far for work and things like that, right? Also, women in tier 2, tier 3 cities did not have access to the kind of opportunities that we have in the metros, uh, or the job markets that we have. Now with COVID, with all companies rethinking their entire work policies, there is more acceptance of work from home, and there are flexi timings. So women who had kept their careers on hold because they were raising children and had only those 4 hours to spare during that work day, they can now get back into that workforce and go in for those flexi timings or 4 hour shifts.
Shubhra, you were saying something?
I was just saying that, yes, I mean, Gitanjali made a good point saying that, the fact that women do and are actually expected to multitask, I mean, that's a given. And that hasn't quite changed. In fact, it's only gotten worse, as Suchi mentioned. But the fact is that today, a lot more women can apply or hope to have a job because companies are more open to work from home. So, at least if they want to, that opportunity is far more available now.
Do you think that this has improved the kind of productivity and efficiency, considering that work from home gives people more time, of course, to sort of devote to their careers? So as the lady bosses of organizations, do you see this as a huge efficiency generator for yourselves?
I would say yes, but it's been difficult and easy on a certain people. In terms of productivity, I think setting processes became very important, right? We're a very young team. We're a team which is constantly hustling, constantly innovating. So for us, we were one of the first set of people to start work from office. Like we started way back in August because we just felt that the close connection that each one of us had and the hustle that we could do by just sitting around the room was something that we were missing out on. We struggled initially to get productivity out of people. And then we realized having very clear responsibilities and task lists, right? We have a lot of young set of people who needed guidance, who needed people to be around. So for one of the teams, which was the design team, we actually got a module where they were constantly on Zoom. And the Zoom would be on constantly, right? Imagine marketing is ideating and trying to create a design where the marketing head has to give them directions, the design lead has to give them instructions. And that was kind of what was missing, right? So we had to set processes in place for productivity to be an all-time high.
Naya, you want to come in here?
So I want to call out two things, right, that really, I think, massively accelerated the productivity at Baby Chakra. One was, as a team, I think we learned to trust each other a lot more. Right. So, I mean, there's only so much that you can micromanage team members when they're working virtually. And there's only so much you want to, because they're adults. They know how to get work done. That's why we've hired them to be part of the team. And I think when a team operates with trust, right, there is an immediate bump in efficiency and productivity we saw. Right. And there was an immediate, I think, camaraderie, teamwork, all of these things that you try to sort of institutionalize in your office every day, right? You have like talent leads who are trying to do that through like activities and like trying to figure out like KPI settings, but this just happened automatically because people learned to trust each other, right? And the company learned to trust the people who were working for the company and with the company. I think that was one of the biggest contributors to productivity, if you ask me.
I'm going to come to each of you because I think the audience that we have here wants to know what the learnings are for most of your employers from this whole work from home scenario. And what advice do you give to entrepreneurs who are starting out where, work from home is the new normal in this post-pandemic era? So Malika, can you start with telling us what your key learnings are?
As employees and employers, I think our most important role in everybody's life became on how to help them get balance in their lives, right? And we had to all incorporate things in our we call our HR team the hero management team. And we had to inculcate things which were specifically done on a weekly basis for everybody. So I'll just give you a few perspectives of what we did, right? Like we ramped up one-on-ones massively during lockdown. We still do it as a practice because I thought it really helped us at that point of time to get to know people. We started something called Fun Fridays, and that was our attempt of getting people to switch off post 6:30 on Friday evenings. There's that 1 hour of just having fun, playing music, playing a game, putting people in rooms to kind of just brainstorm with each other to come up with something which is out of work, kind of gave them an end to their weekday. And once I'd finished, they kind of had a more fruitful Saturday, Sunday. Otherwise, I could just see a lot of people reaching to a stage of burnout.
Naya, what is your biggest learning from this lockdown?
Internally, we have this phrase we started using a lot, which is start with structure, but lead with trust, right? So I think we started sort of obviously setting structures in place a lot more. And, we had a lot more articulated and written down KPIs and processes, etc., that we kept on following. But, the reality is we're in the midst of a pandemic, right? And I think this whole lead with trust became a very important manifesto for us as a team and as a company, right? So I think earlier, no one could really come out and say, hey, I'm just having an off day. I'm just feeling like the world is so stressful. I'm going to take the day off. I'm going to take a couple of hours off, right? That conversation never used to happen in a professional setting. Those conversations are happening today, right? And they're happening with a lot more openness and candor because of this lead with trust process.
Shubhra, what is your key takeaway from work from home?
I'd say focus on the results and not so much on the journey. I think a lot of time earlier used to be spent on how to get something done rather than, are people going to, follow this? But with remote, you realize that there is less control over how people do certain things. And just learning that, work gets done as long as you have the right team. There are lots of things that we thought about and kind of put in place. One of the things was that no meeting would ever start before 10:30 because we realized that, there are lots of women, plus there are men. And, they were encouraged to sort of chip in, help their wives and, take care of the morning chores, etc., before they log into work. So we do not start working before 10:30 in the morning, and 6 is when we wind up. If you have, work that needs to be done after that, you can go ahead and do it, but no meetings after 6. So some of those things were important for us to put into place. As Malika said, we also had Fun Fridays. So every Friday, 4 o'clock, people were like, work is done. Now let's have some fun. Let's get to know each other. How was your week, etc. So putting all of those things into place actually helped a lot.
Right. Even companies like Uber, etc., they've also launched, campaigns like Within Her Reach, where they are giving women flexible working hours, etc. So I think that perhaps has been the biggest change that has really come in out there.
Considering like we have a lot of women, I see clearly that they are feeling a lot lighter about not choosing between family, kids, etc., and work. And this new, more flexible hours is, I can see that it's something they do value.
Right. Gitanjali, what are your key takeaways or biggest learnings, perhaps?
Biggest learning, I think, is that COVID sort of turned everything upside down for us, right? We had never thought that something like this would happen, that we'd all be at homes and we'd be prisoners in our own homes. So, so with that, I think it's essential for every company to sort of decide what they want for themselves and not follow something which another company is doing. So really strategize what would work for their company. I think it's essential to look inside and see what works for you rather than following something else. Also, what remote working has really said is that now we can do things that we weren't doing earlier, like, for example, increasing diversity at workplace. We didn't have more women representation, probably because of they had to step off their careers, take care of motherhood, all of that. Now we have that. So use this time to innovate, use this time to make use of the things that were probably not possible earlier.
Malika, do you think more women will, attain leadership roles now that work from home is being allowed? There's more flexibility in working. Do you think that trend where we've seen a lot of dropouts happening at mid-career levels will change? There'll be a reversal and more women will reach leadership roles?
I think too early to say, honestly, if you ask me. I think a lot of times that the women choose to drop out is not just because of the fact that, they have to go to work and they have to come back from work. A lot of times it's also that the work is also consuming for them, that they find it hard to balance the two aspects of their life, right? Working from home has probably brought in the ease of you being able to be present to look after somebody in your family, maybe your child or an adult or anybody in your house. But that's still not taken away from the nature of the work that you're expected to perform, right? It's not an easy way of working. It's honestly a very hard way of working when you have to work from home and you don't have your teams. Like I've seen a lot of leadership roles where, I'll just go to you a simple example, in my own organization. I have an open door policy in my office and we've resumed work. I have to actually physically put up a board right now outside, which reads, in a discussion, please do not enter, right? But I have so many people who just walk in for like this instant answers, right, left and center, right? And I think even Suchi brought up that point saying that, how do people reach out to you? Like when I was working from home and I was on one call, I had 3 more in waiting, right? One, it was very distracting. 2, it was harder for people because they were waiting for me to kind of give them an okay on something which was not happening instantly, versus they're just walking inside and kind of saying that, pass it on right now. No, I know you're talking to him, but just to prove this, right? So it's very different. So I think it's very early to say as how life would change.
Many thanks, ladies, for joining all your inspirational stories and your learnings from how work from home is really shaping the career of so many women out there, and it's also bringing so millions of women into the whole employment fold. In fact, campaigns like Within Her Reach, have also shown the fact that women out there have the option of working remotely and the positive influence that it has had on their careers going forward. So many thanks for being a part of this roundtable discussion. It's been a real pleasure speaking to each and every one of you. Thank you so much.